The hard truth about running high ticket sales teams is that your best closer is always going to be your worst manager. And here's the truth. I've hired countless managers. I'm directing some of the most largest online high ticket offers doing over $1 million every single month. And most managers lead the same way they sell. And that is the biggest problem right now. And in this video, I'm going to give you 3 hard truths so you can go out to your team and lead a lot better and start hitting those $1 million months. The first hard truth is that your top closer won't become that top leader, that top manager. The second hard truth is you can't scale what you can't teach. Creating systems is everything. And the third truth is that the wrong A player can be the worst hire for your business. Most high ticket sales managers and founders don't even become leaders. They just become another closer within the team. And you might be wondering if you're doing this yourself. And this is exactly what that looks like. You might be thinking, oh, I have to run more meetings. So you start running more meetings that have no real structure and it's just more of a pump up meeting. They jump in to save deals instead of developing people. They say, I'll just do it myself, and they call that leadership. They confuse control with coaching. And lastly, they measure effort and not execution. Those are two different things. And that's closer thinking, managing emotion instead of managing infrastructure. And it's the reason why most new managers and also founders doing less than $1 million a month that are still managing their sales team, that's the reason why they plateau. You see, being great at closing is not the same as being great at leading. It's two completely different skills. You see, a great closer, what actually got that person to the top or even got you to the top to start closing more deals within your company, it all dealt with being selfish. And what I mean by that is they don't spend a lot of time developing other team members because they're busy on calls, closing deals, trying to make as much money and commissions as possible. They're not worried about other people on their team. They're here to dominate, and everything to them is a competition. And they're trying to be at the top of the leaderboard and make as much money as possible. So they're not worried about those around them. And the moment that sales rep starts to focus on other people, it takes away from them closing more deals. So why would you have someone that is a leader, the number one closer on the offer, switch and move over to management instead? Those are two completely different skill sets. And when you do that, when you put your top closer in that management position, that is when things will actually drop, because now you're taking away their time and attention and energy from closing deals to developing other team members. In reality, their character and their skill sets do not align to actually be leaders. They're just high performing sales reps. And that's completely okay. And if you are a high performing sales rep who's recently been promoted to being a manager, then you must pay attention to this video, because I'm breaking down these truths to you so that you can go in and be a better leader and produce better results for your team. And if you're a founder, this is important to you as well, because you might be thinking, should I promote this closer? Or you might already have, and they're going to need to develop their skill set so they can perform better within your company. You see, leadership in sales, it's not about how can I be better? How can I be the hero? It's having that complete humility and dropping everything for yourself. And now it's all about your team. How can I make my team better? How can I make those around me go to the next level? And if you've only been helping yourself, and you're all about yourself and you just want to make more money for yourself, you're always going to fail in leadership and also management. It's the most humbling experience that you've ever had. I remember when I was a manager in the beginning, I thought, okay, this is the time for me to shine. This is the time for me to grow. And also, this is the time for me to get all of the glory from the team. In reality, you don't get the glory. Your glory comes from your team performing. When your closers are closing those deals, not from you giving them some type of hack or you coming in and closing the most on the team. There's no $1 million a month sales team where there's a player coach. And if you have a player coach right now in your company, it's costing you thousands of dollars, because you can't just coach and manage and also be on the actual team. That's why when you see the top coaches in basketball and football, do you see them running onto the court in the field to go and make that play? No, because they're a coach. That's what they're good at, and that's what their responsibility is. And when you turn your head to go from coach to closing those deals, you're taking away from the company. And that's you being selfish, which is the same character trait as a number one top closer. So you have to drop this. You have to start unlearning the things that got you to the top closer. The thing that actually has grown your company for you to start closing these deals are going to be the same exact things that ruin your business and stop you from growing. That's exactly why you're hitting these plateaus. And a lot of times the top closer resists this structure. They don't like structure. So now that the top closer is now the manager, and you're having to go in and put structure into the business, how is someone going to put structure into a business that does not like structure? And the reason why a lot of closers don't like structure is because they got into high ticket sales because they were sold on some type of dream. the dream of the remote lifestyle where you can just wake up at any time of the day, log onto your computer, and start closing deals. That's just not the reality of high ticket sales. You're going to be managed when you're on these $1 million a month teams. And if you're not, chances are you're just on a unicorn offer and it doesn't really deal much about the management and the leadership. You're just selling a really, really good offer. But if you are in an offer like that right now where there's not that much leadership and management, you'll probably start to see the plateau. And the plateau is because of the leaders inside of that business. They don't know how to help you grow. You're stuck. Everything's been the same month after month. There hasn't been any large numbers. You might have had that spike, but now things have been plateauing, slowly, slowly, slowly dying off. You might see people leaving the team. If you have multiple managers, you might see some of them getting fired off, and you're building that foundation again. So a lot of closers got into high ticket sales because they didn't want structure, they wanted freedom. So now that you have the top performing sales rep coming and putting in structure because now they're a manager, that same top performing sales rep does not like structure. I've never met a top performing closer that loves structure, that loves being the one putting everything together. It's two different character traits, two different skill sets. So now you have someone that is a closer, high performer that doesn't like structure coming in to manage something that needs the most structure in the whole entire organization. It just doesn't work out. And if that's you right now, it's not too late. These are things that can be trained and taught. But oftentimes, founders, they don't have time to be messing around. They don't have time to be hiring someone based off potential. They need to hire people, especially in this critical role with sales management. They need to hire people that can make results immediately, a fast impact into the organization. The second hard truth about running high ticket sales teams is you cannot scale what you can't teach. A lot of times people try to hire other versions of themselves and just hope that since they were performing well on the offer, that now someone else can just come in and do it. Even if someone has great, amazing skill sets, they still need structure, they need systems. And as you are scaling a high ticket offer sales team, you want to make sure there's as much training and systems as possible because if you're bringing on multiple setters, a lot of times setters are a position where they're always coming in and they're always coming out. You don't want to keep repeating yourself over and over again when a new setter comes onto the offer. You want to have the right systems, the right trainings in place to make everything really predictable. So some of these systems and processes that you can put in place so you can start scaling and not having to teach the same person over and over again is the offer information. So a breakdown of like all your guys' different tiers, the pricing, the name of the offers. You can break down your ICP, lead qualification. I'm really just reading off of the things that we already built out for our partners. Lead qualification. So we put in different scenarios of like what offer that a lead would actually fall into. So we built out these different ICPs. So we might have Sarah, Billy, Bob, John, Daquan, like whoever's name it is. We'll have all these different scenarios and we'll break it down from, okay, well, Sarah has $50,000, John has 20,000, Billy has $5,000, and then we also put their different credit ranges and where they are too as well. Every single ICP breaks down where that lead would fall in to which bucket that we would end up selling them, if any. So then setters, when we bring them onto the offer, they don't have to worry about, okay, is this lead qualified? What's the lead qualification process? No, they go through this training and then they get certified. So then now my sales managers don't have to spend all day training the new setter to know which leads are the most qualified or not. And that's a great thing that you can go ahead and put into place for your business. Now, we also have DM playbooks. We do objection handling cheat sheets. We got SDR scripts, lead priorities, which is a really important one. I didn't always do that. It's just, SDRs slash setters, they need structure. So they need to know exactly what they should be doing hour by hour and what they should be prioritizing. So imagine you as the top closer or a sales manager or even the founder, okay, well, like if a hot lead comes in and they're like, yo, I'm ready to buy, obviously you need to hit them up. But a setter might not know that. The setter might still be cold calling all day and be like, oh, I thought I had a cold call first and then I have to hit up the hot lead. Little stuff like that. Like we know it, obviously, but if you don't tell them and there's not something that is in place and you're just assuming that they know, then that's on you as the leader. You can't assume anything. You want to have everything structured and laid out for your team. The daily plan for the SDRs is that hour by hour breakdown, but the lead priority, it just shows them which leads they should be contacting first, and it gives them the most clarity possible. So when leads opt in, obviously we want to contact those within 5 minutes, but what if an opt-in comes in and then there's also a DM on Instagram of someone saying that they're ready to purchase? Which one do you do first? And like I said, it's obvious for us, But for setters, when you're ramping them up, you want to make sure they have all those details. And if you don't give it to them, it's your fault. Also, what we do is org charts. So people need to know who they should go to for what. So if you have a sales operational manager, that person is different from the actual sales manager. And what should they go to the sales operations manager for versus the sales manager? Because when you have a large organization and people are going to different people for different things and nobody actually owns that activity or department. Another thing that we like to do is the first touch point and follow-up stages. This is super important because oftentimes there'll be a new opt-in on a funnel and then someone will contact that opt-in, and then let's just say the opt-in doesn't end up responding back. Well, what is the follow-up structure for that lead? What is the flow? Should they be contacting that lead in 8 hours from now, 6 hours, the next day? They need as much information and structure as possible to succeed. So those are some of the things that we do build out at scale, and they're all things that can be taught to the reps. That's mainly on the setter side. We'll definitely get into the closer side on another video, but a lot of this has to be heavily on the setters. Oftentimes in leadership, I like to tell my team that the setters are even more important than the closers. Oftentimes founders and new sales managers, they treat setters as like the bottom eaters, like the worst people on the team. Like, oh my God, the setters. But in reality, you need to treat your setters even more important than the closers, because without getting enough appointments set on the board, then the closer can't even do their job. So we treat our setters very, very well. We prioritize them. We make sure they have that structure in place. And if it's not written down, it's just not real. And a leader's job is to make sure that everyone knows exactly what they should be doing and how they should be doing it, and teaching them on the way at scale. So let's go ahead and dive into the third truth about scaling high ticket sales teams. And that third truth is you have to fire fast, especially when you're hiring A players. A players can actually break your business. And a lot of times people think that they need A players only on their team. The best teams that I've ever been on have a mix of A players and also B players. And the C players either get coached up or they get coached out. And when you're hiring these A players, a lot of times A players are toxic. One of the most common character traits for an A player is that they're toxic. And they're toxic in ways where, they might show up to your meetings late, or they might not implement what you're telling them to implement. There's just all these different toxic traits within an A player, but they're an A player for a reason. They're bringing in cash and revenue to the company and to the business. But there's a certain point in time where that A player that's bringing in all that cash can actually hurt the business more than it can help them. Because if they're impacting the performance of other people around them, and then the other B players start to see, okay, well, if the A player gets to do that, then I get to do that too, that becomes a problem. So I had an A player who kept coming to our meetings late every single time we had a meeting. He would show up late. He'll be out and about, just all over the place. But this same closer would bring in like 150, 200K a month, right? So I'm like, dog, like, you're late and everything, but you're collecting and taking that cash. Instead of me trying to kick him off the team or get underneath his skin and everything and say, hey man, you got to fix this shit or you're going to be off the team. What I ended up doing was I just made that meeting for him optional. And I stopped inviting him to that meeting, so then the other closers wouldn't be able to see that that behavior is acceptable. And I positioned it to him as, hey man, you don't have to even come to these meetings anymore. You're doing such a great job. There's no point in even being on these calls. And then I told the other team members, hey, if you're selling 150, 200K in a month, you don't even have to be on these calls. These calls are for people that are trying to get to where he's at. So if you perform good and do well, you don't have to be on those calls with me. So he really liked that. It was a win for him. And also the B players on the team, they liked it because now they saw an opportunity to be on less of those meetings as a team. A players do not like meetings. They don't like having a bunch of huddles and a bunch of calls. They would rather just be out selling. And then your B and C players, they do enjoy those meetings. They want more coaching, more hand holding, more attention. But A players, they just want to go out and get it. So that allowed me to be able to still lead my team and then not have the toxic trait from the A player affect my B and C players. And the reason why a lot of smart founders and sales managers keep A players around even when they've been super, super toxic is because they think that if they ended up firing off that A player, the business is going to end up being ruined. But in reality, if you have that rep that's hitting 150, 200K a month, or whatever the quota is, if they're superly like over exceeding that quota, then yeah, you have a solid point. You shouldn't be wanting to offboard them. But there becomes a point where if that same sales rep is causing you guys not to have that growth, you are going to have to take a few steps back as a leader and actually offboard that person, because that's the same exact reason why your other reps aren't growing. So you'll always be stuck with that same exact A player that's bringing in all that cash, but he ends up being toxic to other reps. So you always stay at that same plateau of this A player is bringing in all this money, and then the other team members aren't performing as well because they think they can do the same thing as that A player, but they're just not him or her. So that's 3 hard truths about scaling, growing a high ticket sales team to $1 million a month. And if you feel like that this video gave you a ton of value and you've been watching me for a while, you've been seeing what we've been up to over at Power Studio, and you just want to see if we can actually take your business or even your sales career to the next level, there's an application for you to go ahead and apply below. But the whole point of this channel, guys, is just to provide you guys value around things that I wish that I knew when I was getting into sales management, sales leadership, being a rep, being a founder. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's video, and I have another video for you right here. Check it out, and I look forward to seeing you guys on that one.